If you're a part of Generation Z, there are a lot of things you need to know that nobody in your life is probably telling you. And that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to try to help you see some things coming down the road that just hit most people and they're not even aware that they're coming. So just a little bit about me. I'm not Gen Z myself. I'm a millennial. I'm around 40. And if I could go back in time only 10 years, it would help me so much if I knew then what I knew now. And even more so if I could go back to my 20s, my teens. So if you're Gen Z, there are 3 things I want to tell you about in this video that if you act on them now while you're still in your 20s, your 30s and beyond can be much better than they're setting up to be now. And the first one is that getting old will happen faster than you think. Now, notice I didn't say being old, I said getting old. And here's the thing I didn't realize and nobody told me. Getting old is a process. You don't go to sleep at 29 and wake up at 30 and you have a bunch of health problems. What happens is that they will sneak up on you. They will happen gradually. And when they start happening, you're probably not even going to know. So let me try to give you an idea of the things that will sneak up on you. One of them is, and these are common health problems to be fair, but something like blood pressure. High blood pressure will sneak up on you. And a lot of times that will come from 2 sources, and that number 1 is probably your diet, and number 2 is your stress level. I don't even know if it's really number 1 and number 2. They're both number 1. Your diet and stress level are going to affect your blood pressure and your health in general because that's really all tied together. So the first thing you should do is learn how to eat healthy. Now, I'm not here to pitch you a certain kind of diet or to say, oh, go carnivore, go keto, go vegan. I don't know what's going to work best for you. But here's what I will say. The best thing for most people is to find a diet that will let you eat healthy, get nutrients, and maintain a healthy weight. And so if you do that with a pescatarian diet, or you do that as a vegetarian, or you do keto, okay, great, more power to you. I don't believe in eating for ideology. You should eat for effectiveness and health. So what I found in my experience is that if you will just focus on eating real food, so basically not junk food, not fast food, not slop, but real food, which most of the time means you go to the grocery store, you buy groceries, and you prepare it at home, that this is going to pay dividends to your health over time. And look, in your 20s, you can get away with a lot of bad eating. You can get away with an unhealthy diet or some excess weight or not exercising enough. Now, I'm not suggesting to do it because you can get away with it, because if you try to get away with it, it will eventually come back to bite you in the rear end. So once you've covered diet, you should, of course, do some exercise. But here's what I would say. Don't go crazy with it. Yeah, I'm actually going to say that you don't even necessarily need an exercise routine. If a routine helps you, more power to you. That's great. But if you're maintaining a healthy weight and good nutrition and you're eating real food as opposed to slop, then if you only go for a walk twice a week or you only lift in the gym once a week, that's fine. You're going to be okay. You really will. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube saying how you need to lift, bro, every other day. And, look, if you're a bodybuilder and you're trying to make your muscle growth and your exceptional fitness into a career path or a brand, I completely understand that. Then it makes more sense to focus on it that much. But if you're not doing something specific like that, then just make sure you exercise, but you don't need to go crazy with it. And also, and I think this doesn't get said enough, find an exercise that you can do, weekly or maybe bi-weekly that you enjoy. So if it's walking or lifting or jogging or sit-ups, I don't see how anyone could enjoy sit-ups personally, but find a few easy exercises that you can do and just try to do them once or twice a week. And that could be as simple as you'll take a 15-minute walk on Monday and Friday, and you'll lift in the gym on Thursday night, and you'll do a few sit-ups and push-ups on the weekend. I mean, it just really doesn't have to be anything special or crazy or exceptional for it to benefit you. Okay, and then my final piece about health is stress level. Now, I've never been good at dealing with stress, and I'm certainly not going to claim to be great at it now, but it is important. And back in my 20s, I didn't realize that it even really mattered. I mean, I knew that stress could hurt people. I'd heard the videos and read the articles, and read that there's research about it, and it was like, okay, I understand it, but it's stress. You end a stressful shift at work and you're fine, or there's a stressful situation in your life, but it's temporary. But no, here's the thing: too much stress, and it's really the bad kind of stress, that's going to come back to bite you if you don't eliminate it or get better at dealing with it. There's a term called eustress, and it doesn't get used a lot, but this is basically the good kind of stress. And that is the kind of stress that it's okay to have in your life. And eustress is basically something that is challenging or difficult, but it is overcomable. It's not the kind of stress that just breaks you down and beats you while you're down. That's the bad kind of stress, and that's what you need to avoid. If it's something repetitive that is really dragging your quality of life down, is making you overthink things, and is making you dread going to work every day, or deal with a certain person in your life, that's when you really need to take time and work on it. So, if you're in college and you have a big paper due at the end of the week, that's a challenge that you can overcome. You have the power and the ability to exceed the requirements of that challenge. You can do that for sure. If you have a job that is reasonably decent, it's meaningful, and you maybe have a big presentation you have to give next week, but you have the skills and the knowledge to do it, and you'll give the presentation and you'll do well, and it'll be fine. That's fine. That's eustress. That's something that you're capable of dealing with and overcoming. But the kind of stress you need to get rid of is the stuff that you feel that you have no control over. I mean, that's really the whole point about stress, is if it's the bad kind of stress that makes you feel like you have no control over your life, over your job, over your circumstances, over your relationships, and that you're just more of a recipient of the unpleasantness instead of like an actual participant and that matters in things, that stuff is going to grind you down, and it will affect your health. And that can be part of the cause of things like high blood pressure, chronic health problems, weight gain. I mean, it really can do a lot. So don't be like me. Don't think that, stress is a myth or stress is overblown. Nope, it's real. And if you don't take care of the bad stress, it will really come back to bite you. Okay, so the second main thing that I want to tell you about if you're Gen Z is take care of your finances. And this is very hard to do because it requires looking ahead. And, as human beings, we have limitations on that. So the main things I would say to focus on are save money if you can. I know that's really difficult to do these days, but even if you can just save, $20 here and $5 there and $50 out of every paycheck, do it. Now, sure, that's not going to be the same as being able to save, $500 a month or $1,000 a month, but it's something, and it's best if you start doing it today. Once you save money, you need to do retirement planning, and it doesn't have to be crazy. I'll probably make a video about this in the future too, but there's a simple financial instrument called a Roth IRA. And you might be able to get this through your bank, but if not, you can get online. You can look at different, brokerage companies, and you can open a Roth IRA. It's not any more difficult than opening a bank account or whatnot. To take you 30 minutes or whatever. But basically, you can invest in various funds. There's index funds. There's mutual funds. There's funds that are tied to the growth of the S&P 500, or the Nasdaq, or different sort of markets or metrics. And basically, once you do that, you let money grow over time. The Roth IRA is actually one of the best things for sort of the average Joe out there. Now, if you looked up, he's a pretty popular finance tuber, but Graham Stefan, um, he has plenty of videos about it. But it's easy to do, and everybody could benefit from this. And even if you could only put in, a few $100 or maybe a couple grand a year, you might as well do it. Get some growth out of it. It's going to help you later on. The other thing would be, of course, an emergency fund. That's real. I should have mentioned that first. That basically means like build up money in your bank account until you have enough to afford, like get through a tough month or something like that, or an emergency or whatnot. Beyond that, just general investing and, basically saving, investing, and financial planning really goes a long way. And if you started doing it early on in life, you really reap the dividends, no pun intended, later in life. That's something that I wish I had started doing at 18. I didn't, unfortunately, start investing at all until my 30s because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know where to start learning. And once I finally did, I realized, like, wow, this stuff is not as complicated as I thought. I think there's a big reason why we're not taught financial literacy in the United States. I'll probably make a video about that in the future as well. But if you do become financially literate, it will really help you going forward. So obviously, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to invest in any specific thing. You should always do your own homework. And if anyone tells you, oh, the stock market is gambling, it's just, it's no different than lottery tickets, that person just simply doesn't know what they're talking about. You can buy things like penny stocks, and that would probably be a stupid idea, but that is not nearly the same thing as buying an S&P 500 based or tracking index fund or mutual fund. So again, do your own due diligence, do your own homework. You can consult a financial professional. But getting your financial house in order will really pay dividends, literally and figuratively, in your 30s and your 40s and beyond, really for the rest of your life. Okay, now the last thing, the big finale. What is the third thing? What is the biggest thing that you should focus on in your 20s to make your 30s and beyond better? And here's what it is. If you have a dream in your heart, if you've had something that you've really always wanted to do, you need to do it in your 20s, because time is your enemy. Time will sneak up on you. Time will say, oh no, you've got plenty of me. Don't worry about it. There's always next month or next year or when you turn 30. But the reality is life is going to get in the way. Time is going to run away faster than you realize, and life is going to block you in your pursuit of time. So again, this will be something very individual to you, very personal to you, and it really ranges a lot. But whatever it is, make sure that it's really your own. I mean, make sure that you're living a life based on what you want and not what someone else is putting out in front of you. Because here's the thing, if you're Gen Z, and gosh, really, if you're a millennial like me, or younger, the old life script has just broken down. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying, oh, life is unstable and it doesn't make sense anymore and it's not like your parents and grandparents had it. So celebrate it and embrace it and it's a good thing. I'm not saying that. I think it would be great if we still had generally the options of you just go to college, you come out, you get a good job, you get the house and the white picket fence, you get a wife and kids and a little dog, and you can have a family vacation once a year. I think that would be great if that was still available. The sad, tragic fact is that that is on its last legs. And I would say somewhere between 2030 and 2040, society is going to be done with it. It's going to understand, this is not the way things are anymore. There are still enough, usually baby boomer aged people that they still don't realize that we've surpassed the year 1972 and that things are different now, but it is. And so It's not good, but here's the thing. Don't necessarily think that you have to slave away to chase this old life that really isn't going to be possible for many people anymore. If you're in a position to build that kind of life and that's what you want to do, I think you should do that. I think that would be a great and wonderful thing if you did. But for a lot of you, if you're especially Gen Z, and of course millennials, and it will be Gen Alpha soon enough, you're going to have to figure out a way to build a life that's not reliant on the old ideas and conceptions of things. So I think for a lot of you, that's going to come down to you're going to have to change your location. You might have to move across the country. You might have to move to a different country, searching for opportunities, searching for, a more stable place to build a future or a better job market, or maybe the best place to try to buy a property someday or raise a family someday. You probably, or you may not necessarily want to go to college or be able to afford to go to college. If you really look at the value, the real return from a college education, it is more in doubt than it has ever been. And for some people, it will be, okay, you're going to go into a trade, or you're going to learn how to do business. You're going to learn, digital marketing skills and try to, build something, sort of an online empire. Although hopefully you don't end up one of those course bro people. And look, circumstances can change in your life too. You might not get your first good break in life until your 30s. I mean, this is just a sad fact, but you might be perfectly capable and willing to work hard at age 22, but maybe an employer is not going to take a risk on you, or they're going to, it'll just be something that blocks you. So, especially if you're pursuing kind of the old American dream style of future, you may have to wait on getting your first decent job until you're in your late 20s or, maybe your early or mid 30s. I mean, that does happen, and it doesn't happen for everybody. But when it does happen and you think that, that's kind of it's like, okay, I've got a decent job now. I'm going to try to start, building something I couldn't build earlier in my 20s. Then do it. Maybe that big dream is start a YouTube channel, or maybe it's, travel to 30 countries in 2 years. Maybe it's to make an independent film. Maybe it's a business aspiration that you really, think you've got a unique contribution in. The possibilities are really endless, but it's probably more important now than it has been in the past 4 generations to look at that stuff, to consider it, to dream. Because when the old way of life breaks down, sometimes all you end up with is a dream in your heart. And sometimes the only thing that keeps you going is that dream.